Occupy Wall Street.
Occupy Wall Street.
Wall Street.
Wall Street.
Obviously, I've heard of it. I've seen it on television.
Wall Street CEO, who says he's part of the 1%, confronts the Occupy protesters who say they represent the 99%. Demonstrators argue that the wealthiest 1% of Americans keeps getting richer while the other 99% struggle. Well, CEO Peter Schiff and a camera crew, they went to the park in New York to challenge him. You're in the 1%, and we're in the 99%.
Wouldn't you like to get into the 1%?
No,
you don't want more money? You don't want. If I offered to put you in the 1% right now, you're down.
And I would pay my share and get rid of what tax cuts immediately.
What do you?
Immediately.
This is Peter Schiff, and I've come down here to Occupy Wall Street to represent the 1% and see if I can have a dialogue with the other 99%, maybe see if we can find some common ground, and maybe I can help educate the people to direct their protests to the more appropriate source, because it's my opinion that they shouldn't be here occupying Wall Street. They should be in Washington occupying Pennsylvania Avenue. They should be protesting in front of the White House, in front of the Federal Reserve, in front of Congress, in front of the Supreme Court, not down here protesting capitalism. Capitalism is the only solution that they have to their problems. It's not capitalism that has failed them. It's socialism, it's corporatism, it's crony capitalism, it's fascism. That is the problem. Capitalism is the solution if we can only fully embrace it.
I'm here, I've been observing this for a few days. I'm actually from a libertarian mindset. I know your background, Paul, and a lot of that sort of stuff. I've actually been amazed how much overlap I saw. I saw a lot of End the Fed stuff. I saw a lot of things that actually overlap where I thought I was walking into a leftist movement. Do you see this as a left-wing movement, or do you see this more as a populist, apolitical movement?
Well, I think that people, especially young people, have a right to be pissed off because
I'm paying Social Security, I'm paying all this stuff.
Well, not only that, look, we've sold the young generation short.
Yeah.
We've put them through these government schools. We've loaded them up with debt. One of the problems people want is the forgiveness of the student loans. Why are there all these student loans? It's because the government guaranteed them. If the government minded its own business, then nobody could get a student loan.
Well, there's never been a monopoly without government involvement.
No, but my point is, if it wasn't for the government, college would be cheap. The tuitions would be low. It's only because the government subsidizes it and guarantees the loans. But who gets the shaft here? It's the kids. The colleges get all the money, and they stick the kids with the bill. They graduate with these worthless degrees with $100,000 or more in debt, and they can't get a job. And if they get a job, they're paying massive taxes. They're paying Social Security taxes to support a generation that voted in this Ponzi scheme before any of these people were born. They're paying income taxes. If there's anything left, they got to pay back their student loans, and they can't even discharge them in bankruptcy, and if they die, their parents are stuck with them. So I think, I think
the blame on government.
Of course, the government did it.
Well,
it's not all the blame of the government.
Well, who else did it? Who guaranteed?
Together, you guys are part of the
No.
team.
Wall Street is. I agree.
Who lobbies? Who
No, you're
lobbies
But why are there lobbyists? Why are lobbyists successful? Because government has power and influence. The problem is the government. If the government couldn't dole out special favors and subsidies, there would be no lobbyists. So what you've got to do is take the power away from government and bring it back to the people.
Then you guys would own everything.
No, then we'd have freedom. Then we'd be a wealthy country like we used to be before the government came in and screwed it all up. We created the wealthiest society that the world had ever seen. The standard of living, you go back to 1950, the average American had a standard of living nobody can match anywhere in the world. That's not true today, because we don't lead the world in freedom. We lead the world now in big government and regulation and central banking. That is the problem. We have to go back to the Constitution. We have to go back to our roots.
Exported to India
Of course, but why? Well,
That's
because
not
we
the government, that's
no,
corporations.
no, but the government made it so expensive to hire Americans. That's the problem. All the taxes, all the laws, minimum wage, occupational licensing, payroll taxes, unemployment taxes, all the potential litigation. The government has said it's so expensive and so risky to hire. Look, I hire people, right? And a lot of times I'm reluctant to hire people. I try to avoid it because the problem is the government makes it too expensive. I know a lot of small businessmen that do everything they can not to hire people because they don't want the headache from the government. They don't want the legal liability. They don't want the government dragging them into court and suing them because they don't think they hired somebody the right way, or maybe they fired them for the wrong reason. You know, the government is looking over the shoulder of every businessman, and it is hard enough to start a business without the government complicating it with taxes and regulations. You know, when people start a small business, they put it all on the line. It's their money. They have to pay everybody first. They pay their employees, they pay their rent. They only make money if there's something left over. You know, and the government makes it very hard, so people don't start businesses, and if they do, they try not to hire people because they can't take the cost. And if businesses are moving their jobs, I recently set up a bank in the Caribbean. I'm moving some of my employees to Singapore. I would rather keep all my employees here, but I don't have a choice. The government is making me uncompetitive. The rules and regulations are so expensive that the only way I can stay in business is to move part of my business to other countries. You know, but I would rather do all my business here if it weren't for the government.
Peter, put the mic in front of him when he's
Yeah,
speaking.
I think it's the corporations that get greedy and decide that, oh, why we pay someone $8 an hour if we can get someone for 50 cents an hour in India? And that's why
it
we
has
move
to do
over,
with
not
total
because of
productivity.
government.
First of all, the corporations are just people. It's people that own stock, right? And if you go back to the 1950s, for example, America paid the highest wages in the world, much higher than we do today. Yet we produced the cheapest stuff. Our products cost less than products produced anywhere else in the world, and so we sold them all around the world. Why? How was it that we could pay the highest wages but produce the lowest cost stuff? It was because we had more capital. We had more capital because we had lower taxes and fewer regulations. So we gave our workers tools and machines to make them more productive. We don't have that anymore. We are not as productive as other countries. That is the problem. But you have to ask yourselves why. How did we have such a huge lead, and how did we blow it? What did we do wrong? And what we did wrong was more government, more rules, more regulations, more taxes that made us less competitive. That's why the jobs are gone.
So hold on. Is it safe to say that you're the only one here who's anti-government?
I don't know. There's probably a lot of people here who are. All right. How many people here blame the problems on the government?
Partially.
Would you count the Federal Reserve?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, definitely the Federal Reserve. It's a big part
Talk
of the
about that a
problem.
little bit.
Yeah, well, it's the Federal Reserve that creates all the inflation, that destroys the value of our savings and our wages. It's the Federal Reserve that inflated the housing bubble and the stock market bubble before it.
Every bubble.
Oh, yeah? What's this?
Can you speak? You're in this movie, right?
In this movie? I don't know. I don't know if I'm in that movie.
Yeah, Plunger, you're in this movie.
I am?
Danny Schechter's film.
I don't know.
Who's got Wikipedia?
I don't know. I don't know if I'm in it. I get in a lot of documentaries, so I could be in there.
What do you think of Wall Street as a crime?
If you're
Well,
doing
look,
such a good job,
I think-
why is America going down?
It is going down. It's going down.
I thought you 1%ers are doing such a good
No.
job.
Well, some of the 1%ers who are working on Wall Street, who are getting their money based on government bailouts and subsidies, that is the problem. They should be allowed to go broke. But there are a lot of people who are businessmen who don't get a government subsidy, who are trying to overcome enormous government regulatory hurdles and high taxes. You know, they deserve that money. But I'm with you on Wall Street. Nobody deserves a bailout. No company is too big to fail. If someone on Wall Street gets in trouble, they should lose their money. That's how capitalism works. You take the good and the bad.